everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amelia Ann and I post new life and style videos every Wednesday at 4 p.m. So as you can see, my backdrop is not here anymore. I am in a new location. I have officially moved into my first house and a house tour will eventually be coming. There's a lot of work and a lot of work that I didn't plan for, which is what owning a home is. Today I'm going to be talking about what it was like and is like to be an only child. I have not met many people who are only children, but anyone who has met me and finds out I'm an only child, I pretty much get the same question. So I thought I would just talk about it because you don't realize how different your experience is until like you just start talking about your childhood with people who did have siblings. So the first question is, were you spoiled? This is probably like the most asked question, or sometimes it's more just said as like a fact, like, oh, I guess I guess you're spoiled sort of thing. And it's like kind of more complicated than yes or no. Like, I would say not really. It's not like everything I asked for I got. That was certainly not the case. I can still remember like wanting some things and just my mom not buying them for me, whether out of pure price or just because like she didn't want me to be entitled. Now as far as like attention goes and being spoiled with attention, sure, your parents and family members don't have any other child to like divert their attention to, so all their attention like does fall on you, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. And the next question is, obviously, do you wish that you had siblings? And there are definitely times even now where I wish like I had like an older sibling, just someone to like always like talk to and who would always like be there. But that's like very rare, and that's pretty much only like if I'm going through something like very personal and very hard do I feel like, oh, I just wish I had like a blood family member like around my own age who I could talk to about this problem. But otherwise, like, I am very happy not having a sibling. And did you have an imaginary friend? And I don't think I had one specific imaginary friend. I definitely had like imaginary worlds in my head, and I would just like play make-believe a lot of the time where I'd make up different characters, but there was never like, oh, this is my friend Mackenzie. Like, there was just none of that. Though there was this one time, and I still don't know why I did it, where maybe it was like first or second grade, we were like drawing our family and I drew this like extra girl and cat and said like they were my family. And then when like it got back to my mom, she was like, why did you draw this? And I don't remember what I said, but that is something that stuck in my head, and I don't know what that was about. Maybe I was lonely or I was seeing someone, who knows. Number 4, this is an interesting question that I pulled from another channel's video on like only children, and said, how do you think you would be as a sibling? And I said, kind of terrible. I just don't think I'd be a good sibling, just straight from the fact of like I don't have any experience with like living or being with family members who are my own age, because even in like my family there's no one my age, right? Like there's either older cousins who are like 40s, 50s, 60s, or like younger. There's just no one in my age bracket. I don't understand that dynamic. I don't think I'd be a good one. Number 5, the best part about being an only child. I'd say the fact that I didn't have to share anything. Like there was, if I, when I did get a toy or like whatever, like it was mine. I didn't have to share it. I didn't have to share my mom. I didn't have to share my grandparents. I didn't have to share my pets. Like they were mine. I had to learn to take accountability almost, or just learned how to deal with conflict in a better way, because I was like dealing with adults versus having a screaming match with your sibling. Which actually have a funny story. Last summer, I went to a bachelorette party for one of my good friends, and her sister got into a fight. They were like really upset with each other. And I had never seen them fight like this, mostly because like I feel like, you know, now that we're in our 20s, you don't really see siblings like fighting like this. But I mean, they were like yelling and like all this stuff. And I remember being on the phone with my mom and I was like, oh my God, like I don't know how they're gonna get through this. The fight was so bad, all this stuff. And she's like, Amelia, that's just siblings. Like it's not, you know, like a real fight. This is just like a sibling dynamic. And that was definitely like a time where I was like, oh, that's not something that like I understand. You know, like if someone's yelling at me like that, I think like, oh, they're pissed and like we're like, this is it, like this is over. Definitely like catastrophize it. Whereas definitely I feel like with sibling dynamics, you can have really big fights, but like it doesn't mean much in a sense because it's just kind of the way siblings are. And then obviously the next question is, what is the worst? And again, I keep saying it, all the attention is on you. And I feel like definitely as a teenager, I was just so angsty. Don't talk to me, don't look at me, like nothing. And I just like didn't want that attention. But you know, like there's no one else in the household, right? It was like me and my mom. So what's she gonna do? Like talk to the dog? Like no, you know, it was me. And I mean, she was just being a mom, but definitely like that attention is also not always great. And then just some experiences that you have in your childhood that are different with siblings versus an only child. Like I was talking with my boyfriend last year, a few years ago, about Easter. And if you celebrate Easter, you know, like you normally do an Easter egg hunt. And I guess he was saying like they were planning one for his younger nieces and nephews because he comes from a large family, and how, you know, there's like a race to find them. And then it clicked. I was like, oh, in other families, like that is seen as a competition, right? It's like a fun competition, who can collect all the Easter eggs. Whereas for me, it was, hey, we hit a dozen eggs, go leisurely look for them. So there was no sense of like competition. I was like, you know, just be like my mom, uncle, and grandparents like looking at me while I looked for eggs. There was no like, no, that was mine. Like there was just none of that. And I didn't realize that it was like quote unquote weird until we had that conversation. Of course, it was 1 year we didn't find an egg, and we found it in like June because it was smelling really bad, but that's a different story. And then finally, how did being an only child shape you? I would definitely say my maturity level is above those maybe my own age, or even when I was, you know, younger, I was just more mature because you're dealing with adults more on a daily basis, you know, for holiday dinners, like you're sitting at the adult table. I just wasn't used to kids. So even now I see how it kind of like affects me, where like there's like a toddler or even like a small child, you know, just like a kid, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with you. Like I'm afraid I'm just gonna like break you. Like what do we talk about? I like being mature for my age. You know, sometimes I definitely feel I'm like maybe not fun because of my maturity, or I just like get over things more quickly. I don't know. Also have a pretty vivid imagination. I can, you know, really just like create like whole other worlds, and it mostly comes out in like at night when I hear a noise. I'm like, oh my God, there's like murder and they got in this way, like that sort of thing. But as far as creativity, like I feel like it definitely helps me. I don't know if that's like necessarily an only child thing, because I'm sure there are people who have siblings who are very creative, but I feel because I was forced to play make-believe because I didn't have anyone to be like, and you're like the teacher and I'm the student, like I had to make these people up and make up worlds, that it's definitely like overflowed into my adult life. And I would say that it might make me a bit more sensitive because I never had that teasing back and forth with anyone. So I feel like when someone does maybe nitpick or just like tease me in a way, I can maybe laugh it off at first, and then it kind of like sits there and I'm like, wait, but did they really mean it? Like what did they really say? I feel like I don't have like that like you type of personality, whereas like people with siblings do, because that's what you do allegedly. You just like tease and fight and like all this stuff, and I just don't have that quality about me. So yeah, overall, like being an only child is all I know, so there's only so much I can say. Of course there are times where I wish I had siblings, but like 99.99% of the time. I'm very happy with being an only child. I think it allowed my mom to give me opportunities, especially as a single mother, that she wouldn't have been able to give me if there was like another person or like another two people, you know. I'm definitely fortunate in that sense. I don't really feel like there was a whole lot of negative to be said. You know, I'm not like one of those people who's like, oh, my only childhood was like so bad, so like I'm gonna make sure if I have kids, like they're gonna have a sibling. I don't know, I had friends so like that helped, because you know, you still got that interaction with people your own age. I still went to school, so I was still like able to talk to people. So yeah, if you are an only child, like let me know your experiences, because even watching some other people's videos, there was definitely like, oh, I never thought of that, or oh, that's like different than like how I grew up, especially I guess like if you were like a 2-parent household versus me, I was just a 1-parent household. You know, even there lies some differences. So let me know your experience in the comments. Also in the description, I am still putting all the Black Lives Matter resources. I've added a link to register to vote, or just to find out more about voting. Obviously this only applies if you're in the United States, but if you are watching from another country, I do encourage you to get involved in your political voting system. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a wonderful